Trigger warning to everybody listening. This episode does contain talks of rape, sexual assault, and self-mutilation. If this is some subject matter that you would rather not listen to or would be triggered by, we highly recommend you skip this episode. If you feel like you can proceed, go ahead and proceed. Thank you guys for listening. Hey y'all, quick editing note. We did notice that Austin was not recording with his microphone facing towards him, so please excuse the first couple of minutes that we have a little bit of an echo. After around the 3-minute mark, you should hear the audio correct. We apologize this in advance.
Hey, I really like when you look in my eyes, bro.
This is a crazy way to start off this podcast out of all of them.
Like, really light film we're going to talk about today.
I saw a YouTube video talking about how she's a femcel.
I've seen this discourse.
Really, yeah. There's a lot to unpack with this movie. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sensitive subject matter despite the intimacy stuff that goes on in this movie. Which now that I'm thinking about it, there's not that much intimacy in this movie.
Well, see, I would just say it's more vulnerability.
Yeah.
I feel like this film is like a gaping wound. That's what I would compare it to.
Working class frame rate. I'm your host, Josue, with my co-host
Austin.
And today we're going to be reviewing The Piano Teacher by Michael Haneke.
Yes.
French director. You probably best know him from his movie Funny Games, which is a phenomenal movie.
This one stars Isabelle Huppert.
I don't even know her name, but shout out her. She absolutely kills it. A movie about a woman who is pretty much confined to the structure that her mom has for her life in terms of what she's doing, where she's at all times.
Oh, shackled by the hierarchy of her forefathers.
And I mean, and she looks well into her 40s, maybe even 50s. She's an older woman still being controlled by her mother. And
codependent.
Yeah, and there's a lot that is explored in this movie where she lashes out in different ways to find her own freedom and her own expression that are haunting. If you have not seen The Piano Teacher, watch The Piano Teacher.
Spoilers now.
Yeah, we're coming back to this one, so I highly recommend you watch that movie and then come back to this podcast. It's a hell of a movie. It's a hell of a movie.
I think if you love drama and you love good writing, this is essential.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal. It's incredible. I rated it 5 stars.
5 stars. One of my all-time favorites.
Instantly. Off rip, I do want to start off by saying that the cinematography looks incredible.
Oh, the clinical editing,
and also the frame choices feel so so
detached.
Intentional, and so intentional too.
Yes.
The immediate thought that comes to my mind was the shot of her at the porn store.
Oh, when she's walking in.
Yeah, no, even when she's in the booth and just how close we are to her.
Static sort of like close up.
We are literally in the booth with her, and I don't even think she jerks off. I think she's literally just
sniffs the cum tissue.
Sniffing cum
don't
tissue.
Sniff the cum tissue, guys. It's tempting, but don't do it.
That was crazy. I think.
That scene haunts me.
Yeah.
I think that shot of her face as she's looking at the screen, and
she looks kind of lifeless.
Well, it's not even like a thing of pleasure. It almost looks like a child discovering something they enjoy. Because she acts so calm and collected and cold. Yeah. But then you have these vulnerable moments like in the sort of booth at the porno place.
Right.
And it's almost like you see that calm, calculating expression drop, and you just see the vulnerable, unhealed person come out.
Yeah,
and it's all in the eyes. That's why I have to shout out Isabelle Huppert, because her performance is like an actual like force of nature.
Yeah, it's incredible. Before we get even more into the depths of why this movie is so expertly done, I would like to say we were talking a little bit about our personal correlations to this movie. And I would like you to open up first, if you don't mind, unless you want me to open it. Yeah, go for it. I want to know how this movie connected with you, because I definitely connected with it on a very personal level, but I want to know your attachment to it or your correlation.
I think I saw this film at a very destitute part of my life.
When did you see the movie?
I saw it when I was like, I want to say 17.
Wow.
And this was right when I was starting to finish high school and head into college, and my issues with...
Dude, you were tapped in.
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know how I came across so much sauce so young, but I just had an eye for it. I could be a tastemaker, dude. I could be a programmer.
Yeah, I'm gonna let our listeners know, hopefully soon viewers, that Austin's movie knowledge makes mine look like all I watch is Marvel movies. But you know, and I don't say that to put myself down. I say that to put you up. You have an extensive
Thank you.
film library knowledge. It's incredible.
And I'm not even the final boss, which is what's crazy.
I don't think so. Yeah,
that's what's interesting.
Sorry, no, I don't mean to divert you, but
No, you're okay.
Yeah, so you saw it at 17.
Saw it at 17.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like right when I was leaving high school, entering college, and this was sort of right before my sort of blossoming issues with addiction and depression came to a head. And I just remember sitting there in my room quiet after, and I'd never had a film upset me so deeply and emotionally. And I remember sitting there feeling so vulnerable because some of the actions that she took, well, not necessarily like I can relate in that I've repeated the same behaviors.
No.
I could, you know, except for the porno theater stuff, definitely relate, dude. I love those tissues.
Yeah, we've all.
But I think just the honesty about how it portrays self-destruction and how, you know, how ugly and misanthropic it can be, and also how quiet and startling it can be. For example, I remember the first time I saw that scene where she's in the bathtub and she lacerates her genitalia. I remember the fact that Haneke, who notoriously doesn't use scores for his films because he thinks they manipulate the audience, he wants you to feel the emotion in the scene.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, that's why he doesn't use scores. He thinks
now that I'm thinking back to it, I don't remember a score, and
because he wants you to sit with it.
Crazy.
He thinks it manipulates you in a way that's
it
disingenuous.
definitely does. Disingenuous. I mean,
he's kind of extreme to be
fair. Yeah.
I mean, I don't agree with all of his opinions.
The first movie that comes to mind is Man of Steel or Buns of Steel.
That movie should have been death.
Because, like, listen, Hans Zimmer's score is not like genre bending, but it's definitely doing a lot of heavy lifting for what you should be feeling. But yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I didn't know that.
Well, in that scene in particular, I remember really sort of like frightening me. I even like stood up and paused for a minute because like I think back to a lot of moments of like meltdowns and acting out and sort of like inducing situations that I know would harm me. You know, how quiet those moments were before they became explosive and chaotic. And I don't know, I just don't think I've seen many films that show it in such a unromantic light, but in a way that I think is emotionally honest.
Yeah, I'm thinking right now, as you said that, I don't recall a score from the movie, and I don't. No. And I mean, it's a true testament to the writing, the shooting, the acting. Like it's just it is firing on all. Yeah, everything is firing on all cylinders to tell a harrowing story and like
really ugly story.
Yeah, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that comes to mind when I think back on this movie. And even I was telling you as I was writing my review, simple little write up for Letterboxd, I was getting emotional because I can relate to a lot of her pain. I can relate to a lot of her struggle. And I was writing down just because I seem to always talk about my upbringing and how I was raised in a religious household, only because it's affected me so much in every aspect of my life, in the art that I consume, and in the way that I would carry my relationships, and the way that I would view the world, and then even in my own sexuality as well as my own chase for intimacy and pleasure, and how that was all confined to a box due to my religious upbringing, to the point where, like, you know, my parents would fast forward through kissing in PG movies.
That's wild.
Because they were like, it's too much. And you know, that would only lead me to be like, why? Like, I was only more intrigued and I wanted to know more about why this was so wrong. And you know, obviously that led me down a path to where I looked up porn way too early as a kid, and that led me down to, you know, different paths that probably were not healthy. But like, you know, now as like an adult, I'm able to kind of navigate that a little bit differently due to my parents not being around in my life like that to control me. And I don't think my path would have been exactly the same as this woman if I were to have stayed with my parents and like being so boxed in. But I do think that there would be a lot of similarities, and I see her acting out in these ways where she's she's very abusive to her students, extremely abusive, and she's
cruel.
She's demanding, and she is almost like a dictator in these classrooms, because I see it as a way of her gaining control of some aspect of her life, because I mean, dude, she's out there working. She's not even doing a lot outside of her house, except for whenever she has a chance to go to the porn houses.
Those naughty errands.
Yeah, but you know, her mom is like calling her, seeing where she's at. She knows the schedule of her students. Like, that's fucking insane. And she's a grown ass woman.
No, it's like, it's almost totalitarian. How her mother has her fingers in every aspect of her life. Well, and you know, that's what I find so fascinating about this movie is you can tell from the way she's acting in the first 2/3 of this film. She sort of created an equilibrium where she's obviously miserable, and she, you know, yearns for something beyond this like sort of cage she, you know, is like encased in. But even in, and this is another sort of hearkening back to my days of addiction, where it's like, even in your most destitute moment of life, there's still a rhythm to what you're doing. You still structure it in a way where it's normalized. Like, sure, maybe I was like, every day I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but like, I knew my routine.
Yeah.
And I found a routine even in the most macabre scenarios. And like, even if it wasn't healthy, you sort of learn to cope and live side by side with it. And watching her sort of like balance it like a fine tuned string is really interesting.
Even as you say this, I'm remembering the first time that I was like watching R-rated movies, and like I would go to extreme lengths to have like an iPod where I found a way to hide it in my mattress. And my parents are not going to listen to this podcast, and they'll probably never know about this until I tell them, but they would find the iPods that my friends would gift me and let me borrow, because that's the only way that I could stay, because my phone would be taken at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m., my phone would be taken every night in high school, and I just wanted to stay up and talk to my friends. Like, this is what everybody was doing, you know? Exactly. And so I found a way where I would slice my mattress on like the bottom slip with a knife.
That's crazy.
And I would
love
put
it.
the iPod there, and then I put the sheets on top, and no shot at, like, at one point my mom like lifted my bed up, and that's the closest that she got to it, because she had a feeling that I was like on an iPod.
Oh, it's that sixth sense.
Yeah.
It's
and
like so with my mother. I had the bedding under my mattress was torn out because I had cats, and I had my bong and all my residue up there, bro. And it was literally like a little stash.
That's crazy.
I get it.
And to spare details, I mean, I can go into the details more about how I hacked the neighbor's Wi-Fi, because my parents at one point started like disconnecting the Wi-Fi, because I feel like they were onto me, but they just couldn't fucking prove it. They had no concrete evidence.
And you can't just sit down and let them do that to you.
No.
Yeah.
I found a way, and
ingenuity at work.
I hacked my neighbor's Wi-Fi, and then I had my friend's iPod, and what I would do is I would stay up at night and only exclusively watch rated R movies.
Yeah.
And this is how I watched Quentin Tarantino for the first time, and that's when I watched Django Unchained, and my mind literally was rewired watching the blood splatter on these white roses, like, or I think it was just the cotton itself. Like, it was mind blowing to see that imagery. It was beautiful, and you know, I think back to these moments of how I had to adapt, and I see this woman who is so much more, who is older, much older than I was when I was trying to figure out a way out of this box. And my heart breaks for her, because she was trying to find a way to cope with her life. And, you know, even seeing the beginning sequence where she slaps her mother. And in the beginning, I felt like that was a little extreme. And I don't say that's a good thing. I don't say that's I don't excuse her behavior, but I definitely understand why she would lash out so violently.
Well, I think it's mutual. I think that's their relationship. It's like they sort of violate each other's boundaries, and they get physical and angry and volatile. And then, like any abusive relationship or codependent relationship, they sort of loop back to, you know, sort of like pleasantries, and it's like a way to like sort of calm each other down. You know, it's really ugly.
Yeah. You know,
I keep saying that word, but it really is, like, for the wrong audience, this can be a very, very painful watch.
Yeah, and you know, there is a lot of there's I mean, dude, everything that could be talked about. Well, not everything, but you know, definitely sexual assault is in this movie. There is
self-mutilation.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can be very triggering for people. So that's definitely something that probably we should let people know. Maybe.
Granted, I will say this. I think this is one of the few times I've seen a film, and I don't think it's exploitative.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it's actually making a very poignant statement.
I mean, the
about this
reason
woman.
being is this movie is written in a way that it's so expertly handled because it's not trying to make a laughing stock or even add these scenes just to make it edgy.
No, it's very clinical. I think it's very clinical.
The movie that I think that comes to mind is The Last Duel, because that movie always has lingered in my mind because,
or even like a swath of horror films are like that.
yeah, just using these sexual
Graphic
assaults
subject matters.
or graphic rape as a way to like guys like look,
sort
I'm
of
so
like
edgy.
tantalize the audience, like, ooh,
Yeah.
look at that. It's crazy.
Yeah, like this is crazy.
No, this is actually like
There's a lot of substance in what they're saying, and we haven't even touched upon her dynamic with the student and how that came about.
Well, I was gonna say, I think the crutch of her downfall begins with him. I mean, because there's this equilibrium she sets up, and one thing I love about that first hour, especially on this watch, I was noticing, is how efficiently he chisels away at her defenses, and how even from that first interaction, where they're at the private recital, I love that line where he tries to be really smooth and he goes, oh well, if you're not going to eat, like maybe we should go get a drink, and she goes, yeah, go have one, and she points to the table.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch psychologically how you see her emotional barriers like sort of like ricocheting him back. And that first hour, which accumulates in that bathroom scene where they finally sort of consummate their tension.
Yeah.
I think it's
And I believe that's at the halfway mark.
Yeah, no, it's exactly halfway mark, and it's expertly crafted, and I love how all of it is just transmitted through those eyes. I'm telling you, it's those goddamn eyes from Isabelle Huppert. The way she looks at him, and the moment you see that shift is when he's helping her student who's nervous. She's like having diarrhea because she doesn't want to go up and perform. She sees him calm her down, and there's this smile she gives. And I even made this mental note in my head. I'm like, that's the moment. That's the moment she lets him in, and it's beautiful.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, but now that we're talking about it and how he expertly manipulates her,
Well, see, I don't even think it's that he manipulates
I don't. Yeah, maybe it's
her.
not even manipulate. Manipulate's not the word. He's just like.
I think it's because she, for so long, and has been sort of cooped up in this just rigid, dry life that, and I think to a degree, she doesn't even see herself as someone worth chasing. She's like, why do you want me? I'm just this old pianist. And she has all her bitterness about her career, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that he keeps coming at her. And to be fair, the actor who plays this guy, Walter, he's very charismatic.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like
He's the
kind of a
exact type of
game.
guy too that would be able to.
Well, and that's
he,
where he comes in.
he has knowledge on the history of the music, is particularly the one that she likes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back to the opening sequence when they first meet, and he goes up and he's going to perform a piece, and he says, he's like, oh, I'm not performing
Changing to
this piece.
Schubert.
I'm actually gonna change it to the artist, the musician, the composer that she likes.
Yeah.
And she didn't even give a fuck when he walked on stage. And then he said that, and her head literally goes up, and she actually gains her respect. I think in that moment is like when she started to peak. It started to
She
peak.
starts to fall for his charm.
Yeah.
Because he's so adamant. And he's kind of, one thing I noticed too is he's very like, I don't want to say presumptuous because he doesn't make definitive statements, but he isn't afraid. Like there's a line where specifically I remember in my head where he's like, you speak about things like you own them. He's like, you do it too. And like, it's very like confrontational, but in a way that's smooth. And I think she's not expecting that.
You know what? Even as we're having this conversation, I immediately regret using the word manipulation. I think because he's a student. He's like
Well, he's a young
he's
man,
it's
very
like
patriarchal.
1920s. Like he's
chasing the woman who, he's like, oh, she doesn't want to give me attention. Well, I'm going to make her give me attention.
Exactly.
It's very classical in that respect.
Yeah.
The dynamic.
And I don't want to say that. I mean, obviously, like.
Even though it morphs into something sinister.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not trying to say he's a saint here. We all know what happens in that
But I
third
think
act.
that first hour where it's sort of like a charming like romanticism is counterbalanced by that just fucking harrowing third act.
And also, I do feel like what's so crazy is, I don't want to jump ahead here, but I'm thinking to the ending sequence and the rape that happens.
Yeah.
Trigger warning, guys.
Trigger warning.
Well, I've already said rape.
Very painful scene.
Yeah.
Violent.
And I as I'm reflecting on his character and the stuff that he went through to chase her, I feel like a part of him like felt like he was owed this.
Oh yeah.
Because like he felt like she played with him and he felt like he was owed something.
Well, see,
and
that-
even in the
yeah.
beginning when they first have their when they have their exchange in the bathroom, he tells her, he's like, "Oh, you can't leave me like this. You can't give me blue balls."
He leaves some very huge red flags. Well, see, that's what I realized this watch is like I mean, not just this watch, previous as well, but like I've sort of like steel-manned my own positions on this where he likes the idea of her. He meets her. She's this cold, talented woman. She seems so unapproachable and like and sort of measured. You know, she seems so powerful in that respect.
Yeah.
And by the end of the film, he just realizes she's this flesh and blood broken person who's just fucked up, like most humans are, just fucked up.
and she longs for, as much as she says she doesn't want love, she does. Yeah,
She does.
She longs
Well,
for
but
it.
that's the problem is like, but her love is not normal. It's very sick. And he's very unequipped to grapple with this.
Right.
And
He's young. He's
and also like I even think back to that final scene where he assaults her. You know, what's crazy is the way this scene is structured is it's modeled after a fantasy she gives him earlier in the film. And I
Right.
think there's two things going on. The confusion in him is like, as fucked up as it is, I think in his own fucked up way, he was trying to understand her. And I think what's also happening in that scene is that she's realizing how deep this depravity has gone.
Yeah.
And there's like, and it's almost like that, there's like of two worlds where it's like he is in this world, he's completely detached, he doesn't understand, so he's desperately trying to do this even if it's immoral.
Yeah.
And she is so far down. And also to wrap this to a point I was going to bring about another part of the film, she brings up at the beginning of this film about one of her favorite classical artists, how there's a part of his piece where right before he fully devolves into madness, there's a last grasp for sort of rationality in his faculties before complete madness and then abandonment. Yeah. I think that scene is where sort of like she said in the earlier part of the film, that's that devolving into madness. And then I think of that final scene as like the abandonment.
Yeah.
And it's really ugly. And I think what's interesting about that scene too, and I'll let you speak right now, but I think the way Haneke frames the scene is very thought-provoking because he makes no definitive statements about necessarily right and wrong. You clearly know, obviously, through the behaviors who's in the wrong, but I think it's just open enough and messy enough where that slight sort of misunderstanding of like, is this fantasy? What is this? Is he confused? Is she confused? I think adds another layer of tension to it. Because I think of the line where he hits her, but then she goes, "Not my hands or my face," as if she's like, no, that's not part of the fantasy.
Interesting.
And
I didn't even think about that.
Well, and I didn't connect that until this watch too. Is that I think she ultimately decides like this is wrong, but I think that's the part is that it doesn't fully like give you a straight answer, and it's like as they're experiencing it, the answer's revealed. And I think that last shot of her on the floor, her face, once again, the eyes, tells us where her decision lands, and she's not okay with it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's also my interpretation.
For sure.
I'm still kind of processing it, but I think Haneke's style is like that, where he's very much prone to just giving you these uncomfortable scenarios and not holding your hand through them.
Right. He lets you come up with your own interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, even as you say this, I mean, you're challenging the way that I was thinking about that scene, because obviously, as an onlooker, I'm not thinking about her own fantasies. At this point, I'm in an environment that's so violent. And, you know, it is hand in hand with what she wrote. But, my God, like, there's, like, I mean, I guess that's why you have a safe word, you know? Like, and I hate to even laugh when I'm talking about this. Like, because it's such a touchy subject, and for a good reason, you know. But all I could think about was, like, I don't think she wants this anymore. And
No,
like,
well, and I think it's the battle between reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
Because I think when that scene where he opens the letter and he's berating her about her fantasies, you know, obviously it's very, you know, whatever your opinions on kink aside, obviously to a layman like Walter, this character, it's very sickening stuff. And I think in her head, she's like, no, like, you know, it's just fantasy, blah, blah, blah. She's very hurt. And that's a very painful scene, too, where he's berating her. But then it's contrasted with the reality of the scene where it actually does come to life and she actually experiences it. And it's like, no. And but that's also another gray area because he's clearly in the wrong, too. And I'm not making any excuses for him. He's the villain in the scene. But I just think it's just gray area enough where it's like I don't fully know what either of them are thinking. It's just, it's messy, like the situation.
Speaking of gray areas, I mean, I don't even know if this is a gray area or I mean, I guess it is. Just talking about the assault that happens to her mom.
Yeah.
And
oof.
It is. I mean, because this happens right after the rejection, right? So she feels like she can't get that love and attention, and I think that it's almost like a child yearning for their parent to love them. And since she's so troubled and so she's been confined to this box her whole life, she longs for her mother to treat her like a human, and all she can do is try to have sex with her, which is insane, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing with the abuse of it is it's like she just clearly has no boundaries. And this is also what I meant by the gray area earlier I was mentioning where her sense of boundaries are completely eviscerated. And by the end of that film, you kind of realize because of that codependency, because of these volatile sexual fantasies she has, it's like what she perceives as love in a healthy, unhealthy fashion is non-existent. And I think the mom is the best example of this, where you can tell, obviously, like on some level they care about each other, like obviously, but their sense of, you know, respect and boundaries and care is completely not okay.
Someone had pointed out online too that whenever her student, the guy, tried to like kiss her or be intimate with her in a non-sexual way, she would start coughing. She would get literally physically sick.
I mean, she throws up during sex.
Yeah. Which is, again, it's just a bodily response to intimacy because she has never really known that at any point in her life.
No.
And that's
all
why
she's known is power dynamics.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think that's why she lashes out in the way that she does with her mom. And that's why that scene happens because, again, she doesn't know intimacy from her mother. And she reaches out in the only way that she thinks might reach her, which is by trying to initiate some sort of sexual encounter.
I don't even think it's coming from a rational place, though. Like,
no, it's not.
Because she starts just bawling on top of her. And, like, that's what I meant by, like, the final sort of grapple with your faculties and logic before devolving into madness. Because I think that moment when she sort of breaks down on top of her mom, that's when she just loses it. The whole cold, rational, calculating person we've been, you know, sort of navigating this story with is gone.
Yeah. No, it's insane.
I find her relationship with this student, female student, not the male student, that the way it sort of correlates to her upbringing. Because it's very clear, and I love that, and especially after she mutilates the girl's hand, there's a great conversation that I think says everything about her, like, decision-making and why she went through with this.
Well, even before then, this scene went outside when she's talking to the student, and the mom comes up to her, pleading for her to get the part.
Yes.
And
it's the mom's drive, not the girl.
Right, and even she's scolding her daughter. She's like, "You see, you suck."
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's a great part after she leaves the glass in the pocket.
Yes.
And there's this really sort of startling sequence where this girl like gets her hand mutilated, and also that lack of score just made it even more eerie.
All these moments in this movie are intensified by the lack of score.
Yeah, no, you just sit in this room with the energy. And there's this great line from that girl's mom where she goes, "We sacrificed everything," and she goes, "No, she sacrificed everything." And it's funny because the mom didn't fully hear her. She goes, "Huh?" And I think right there that says everything, though, because she never had that option to sort of traverse a potential pathway away from being a pianist. And I think when she saw that girl getting better and she saw her starting to, you know, get her groove, it freaked her out because she said, "No, that's what happened to me. Like, I got my groove. And because of that, I ended up in this glass cage." And, you know, it's very sickening the way she decides to get her out of it. But in some twisted form, that was sort of a way to give this girl a life that's not defined by her parents.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's like the most, and it's funny because even though it's a really sadistic act, this is surprisingly the most empathetic she is to her students in the entire film.
Yeah.
And in her own sick way, I feel like that was her way of like being like, no, I'm not going to let you become a new vessel for your mother like I did. Like it haunts her. She's like walking away, freaking out.
I think that's one way to look at it. I mean, it definitely benefited her probably in the long run. I do think that also she got mad at the guy.
Oh, for Walter?
For
oh, so
comforting
you
her.
see it as jealousy.
Yeah, it was definitely an act of jealousy. And
Really?
yeah, that's why I don't even, I think that when she has that conversation with the mother, that's when she's like, actually, maybe that's for the best.
Well,
But
but
I
see,
think in the
that's
moment
the
when she
combo.
decided to take that action was the fact that maybe she even saw that she had the potential to succeed and be everything that she wasn't. And on top of that, she was
Fair.
getting the affection from the guy that was pursuing her, and he was like comforting her on the stage.
Okay.
And like she walks out kind of angry.
Yeah.
And she acts so instinctively that it feels like second nature, like it's almost premeditated. When it's in reality, it's not. She just acts on whatever she had the tools to act on, and then just
Interesting.
stomps on the glass, does what
Okay.
she does, walks out, and she knows exactly what she was doing.
See, if that convo didn't happen after it, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
But see, that's another thing about this film that I find interesting is like,
But
there's a part
knowing-
of me
knowing-
that thinks these are both right.
No, I feel like
'Cause
I feel like
it's
I feel like your
strange.
theories also can hold some weight. I think that at that moment, though, I don't think that it was on a plan to save her. What we know of her has always been a way of her trying to figure her. She's kind of selfish. She's always kind of been that way. And in that moment, as soon as she has that conversation with the mother, it's when she realizes that she actually saved the girl. Like that's I think that's when she has that moment of realization.
Oh, cause see, like I think that scene where the mom's like begging her, like there's that. It's funny because when she's telling her like, please, like give her a chance, give her a chance. She's actually like when she talks to the mom, there's this moment where she looks at the daughter, she just pauses, and I feel like deep down she just it's like she knew where this was headed. And sure, I can definitely see the jealousy angle, and honestly, now that I'm pondering it, I can definitely see a part of that, but there's a part of me that's almost like it's her way of ending a cycle. And the reason why I think it's that is also ties into my opinion about the ending. So
Oh yeah, let's get into the ending.
let's get into the ending.
yeah.
So the ending, surprisingly, and granted, this is just like my vague notion of what possibly could have transpired.
Sure.
After she decides to stab herself instead of Walter, she leaves the recital. She doesn't go in. And knowing how big this recital was for her, that's actually like a pretty big move.
After she what? I'm sorry.
Well, she was filling in for the student she
Right.
mutilated.
Yeah.
And that could have been a big, like everyone was there. They were all excited to see her play.
Yeah.
And right there, seeing Walter walk away happy, knowing that he's fine in his cycle and she's just back where she started, alone. I feel like that was sort of like her final act of self-destruction, to be like, fuck this. She stabs herself and she just leaves. And because there's that look she gives Walter when she stabs herself, knowing that he's back to just being exactly where he started. And the way he even talks to her is like reminiscent of exactly how he talked to her when he first met her. It wasn't how they were when they were familiar. It's almost like she was right where she started. She's back in the cage. And I felt like the pain of knowing that like overwhelms her. And when she stabs herself, I don't even see it as like a rational act. That was just pure like impulse and like it's almost primitive. And the way she just walks out almost aimlessly, like just to be anywhere but this fucking conservatory, and it just ends right there. I'm just like, I feel, and I think it's like, I remember when the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, like that's kind of it. But I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter whether you know about the consequences or not. That was just her final stand, kind of. And whether she gets in trouble after doesn't fucking matter. It's just that's her moment.
I think that's what her freedom, right? Obviously, Walter plays a role in her deciding what to do, but I see this more of a scene way less about Walter and more so about the life that she's lived. And I guess Walter does play a role in this, right, because of everything that's happened. But her mom's there, like everyone's there, like this is her life, everything that she's built up around her mother's own ambitions. And at this point, I don't even know how much of being a pianist really matters to her because of like the correlation between the female student that she's teaching and just how, like you're even saying in our discussion right now, how maybe she feels like, damn, that was me. And I just kind of like ended up being exactly what my mother wanted me to be. And I see the ending as sort of a way of her seeing, you know, the people that look down on her because she's like a teacher who teaches people how to play piano and she never made it. And they're almost like, it almost feels like a pity party, and they're showing up to see her mom's there to just kind of be like, yeah, oh yeah, like you're still on the path. And then of course you add Walter on top of all that. I see her in many respects how you see the ending, right? Fuck this. And I feel like her stabbing herself, as we've seen earlier, she has very weird ways of achieving pleasure. That stab is like the ultimate like pleasure she could receive. And she's like, I'm free. And I don't even know if she ever goes back. In my mind, I don't think she ever saw any of those people again. And I think she left to actually live a life that she wanted to live.
See, and to expand upon my point, I think what I mean by like Walter, everyone being there, is like, I think when she's looking at all of them walking up the stairs, this is like a recital, whatever. I think it's, or a performance, I should say, not a recital. I think this is like the one moment she realized like none of that fucking mattered to her. Like the piano, the fame. Because it's funny because they specifically say in the movie, they're like, yeah, like you don't know who's going to be there. This could be a big thing for you.
Right.
And I think what the movie kind of teaches us is just like she never got to decide whether that's what she even fucking wanted. And I feel like that ugly look in her eyes of just malice is sort of her just being like, I don't care. Like, this is not what I want. Right. And she doesn't even know what she wants. So that's the even darker part about it is like, I just see her stabbing herself as like, that's the only language she has to express it, you know? And I feel like that sort of last shot I see is her just looking at like the mausoleum of her life and just being like, I'm trapped, and this is my only act that can, I guess, in some way bring levity, you know?
Yeah, what a powerful ending. This is in my view, in my opinion, this is a masterpiece. It is genuinely one of the more captivating movies I've watched this year. Makes me want to go down the Michael Haneke road.
Dude, I'd be down for a marathon. Code Unknown, Cachet. All his films are thought-provoking like this.
To wrap up my thoughts, I think that this movie evoked a lot of feelings out of me. Also made me look at my life and the way that I was raised and how I've been able to kind of grow out of this mentality, especially being raised in a religious household. And it left me with a lot to chew on, and I sympathize for her character a lot despite her flaws. And I think that this is good art. And it causes for conversations like this. It causes for me to look inward, reflect on my life, and not only that, but just incredible writing, incredible editing.
Some of the best you'll see.
This is definitely one of the best movies I've seen all year. And shout out Michael Haneke.
Shout out. Yeah, and to wrap up my thoughts, I think this is just a very professional, nuanced, and introspective way to, you know, explore subjects that I find very interesting to, you know, relative to my story, like trauma, self-destruction, gender dynamics, power dynamics. I think this film is very much willing to let you sort of sit with this graphic subject matter. And instead of like treating you like a child, it lets you think and it lets you sort of get uncomfortable. And I think it's films like this that remind me, you know, when people say like, oh, well, it's just this kind of film, it doesn't need to be that thought-provoking. It's like, you know what, this is just a drama film about a piano teacher. And it's probably made me think more than like half the films I've ever seen. That, you know, don't be afraid to make something that's, you know, going to alienate people. Sometimes you need that with art. And I think this is a prime example of doing that right.
Yeah. I agree. That's going to wrap up my thoughts and our review for
La Piano Teacher.
The Piano Teacher. This is working class. This is working class frame rate. Working class frame rate. I'm your host, Josue.
Austin.
We'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Sayonara.
Working class is where you wait.